On the 19th of April, Putin or the doppelganger, theatrically declared a 30-hour Easter ceasefire, ostensibly to allow for humanitarian observance. It was billed as a religiously inflected reprieve, a gesture of moral high ground during Orthodox Easter. Yet, as British intelligence now assesses, it was nothing more than a ruse, a tactical pause designed to manipulate perception rather than to genuinely halt hostilities. Putin's announcement was a unilateral declaration made without Ukrainian consultation. It mirrored prior Kremlin stratagems, a bid to appear conciliatory to Western mediators, notably in advance of scheduled talks involving the UK, US, and France. And British sources suggest the timing was not spiritual but strategic, a gesture to extract diplomatic capital without compromising military ambition. While overall tempo on the front lines may have momentarily slowed, this was by no means a cease. Ukrainian President Zelensky reported nearly 3,000 violations, including 96 assault operations, 1,800 artillery attacks, and hundreds of drone incursions. In short, the Kremlin ceasefire was acoustic camouflage, quieter but still deadly. 3 civilians were killed in Kherson during this alleged ceasefire, and yet Putin talks about building on the success of this ceasefire and arranging a ceasefire on any civilian attacks. And yet he is the one doing the attacking. Several others were injured across Mykolaiv, Dnipro, Petrovsk, and Donetsk. And according to Ukrainian sources, these attacks were not incidental but designed, a continuation of Russian war aims dressed in Easter ritual. The British intelligence view is that this was tactical fraud, not de-escalation. The UK's defence intelligence publicly assessed that Russian forces almost certainly breached the ceasefire terms, likely to avoid undermining battlefield positions. The decision not to extend the truth, despite Ukraine's offer of a 30-day humanitarian pause, reinforces this reading. Put simply, the Kremlin wanted the appearance of peace without paying the price of peace. Russia's Defense Ministry, in an attempt at narrative inversion, propaganda parity, accused Kyiv of 4,900 ceasefire violations. The number is strikingly high, not merely implausible, but indicative of the Kremlin's intention to muddy the waters. This is what British analysts call reciprocal propaganda inflation. It's vexatious. Moscow raises inflated accusations to obscure its own offences. It's less about fact and more about shaping international doubt. The real aims here are masked maximalism. Despite the optics, Putin's strategic goals remain unchanged. The removal of Zelensky, demilitarization, a non-NATO Ukraine, and the ceasefire was never meant to herald compromise. It was a screen behind which missiles could fly and diplomacy could be weaponized and Trump could be brought back on board. British intelligence warns that such pauses are part of a broader Kremlin playbook to simulate peace, fragment alliances, and undermine Ukrainian resistance through psychological warfare. In this environment, the British Prime Minister spoke with President Zelensky, reaffirming the UK's alignment with Ukraine's sovereignty and its refusal to legitimise territorial seizures, particularly Crimea. Zelensky's repeated call for a 30-day ceasefire highlights Ukraine's constructive posture, contrasting starkly with Russia's duplicity. And while the UK, France and EU maintain a consistent line, the US under Trump has diverged. Reports suggest the White House is flirting with a freeze deal, one that tacitly acknowledges Russia's land grabs in exchange for a ceasefire. British analysts caution against this appeasement. As one senior UK official reportedly told The Times, "You don't make peace by rewarding land seizures with legitimacy." The conclusion from British intelligence is unambiguous. Putin's Easter ceasefire was a diplomatic ambush. It attempted to fracture Western unity, test Ukrainian resolve, and launder Russian military aggression through saccharine gestures, through the sugary language of peace. And such disinformation operations, though less visible than bombs, are no less dangerous. Easter, a time of resurrection and peace, was used instead for drone strikes and artillery, and British intelligence sees this as a warning. Russia's war is not only on the battlefield, but in the very architecture of truth in language. To mistake propaganda for peace is to lose both. We shouldn't forget, silence during a ceasefire means little if it's followed by the roar of resumed violence. True peace, like trust, is not declared, it's demonstrated.